Learning Objective 2 walks us through the process of making regular pricing decisions for our products using a target cost approach and a cost plus approach. And then we will look at how we can consider pricing for our product in a special pricing decision. So when we're trying to determine how pricing affects our short-term decisions, there are 3 questions that your text says we should consider. What is the company's target profit? How much profit do we want to generate off of manufacturing and selling a particular item? Now, that's great and we need to know that, but we also have to understand how much customers are willing to pay, because if our target profit drives the cost plus that profit up so significantly high that customers wouldn't pay for it, then we can't enter this market. So what is our target profit? But what will customers willingly pay for our product? And then identifying whether we as a company are considered a price taker or a price setter. So what do we mean by a price taker or a price setter? Well, our book tells us, and you could probably just with critical thinking walk through this, if we are what your text calls a price taker, then we're pretty much willing to take whatever the market will pay us for this product. We have very little control over the pricing. If we are a price setter, quite the opposite happens. We have a lot of control over the price, and we may have such a unique product that we can price it somewhere within range, but we as a company can decide what we would like the customers to pay us for this product. So how do we determine when someone is a price taker versus when a company is a price setter? Well, let's start with the price takers. Usually these products lack uniqueness. There's very intense competition for this product, and we could take into consideration commodities, milk, corn, flour, wheat, timber. So something that is purchased by in bulk. There's not very much uniqueness to our products, just something that everyone needs. There's a lot of competition. The product can be sold in the market almost anywhere. So if this is the case, we are more likely to take on what your book calls a target pricing strategy. And we'll talk about what that is in more detail in the upcoming slides. But what if we were a price setter? Now we have a unique product. We have less competition. So what if we're a pharmaceutical organization with a patent on a specific cancer-saving drug? In this situation, we have a very unique product, and at least while the patent is in place, we have very little, if any, competition. The pharmaceutical company can almost set whatever price they would like for that particular product. So in this situation, we're looking at a cost plus pricing approach. And we'll look at both of these in a little more detail as we move through these slides, beginning with the target pricing approach. So if we're a price taker, then we're looking at target pricing, which starts with the market price. I'm going to use my marketing research people to analyze and find out what is the market willing to pay me for this particular tablet or this particular stapler or this particular automobile. Okay, and then I'm going to subtract from that market price my desired profit. Okay, so if we'll look at this illustration here on the bottom, first of all, what is the market willing to pay me for this product? What desired profit am I hoping to bring home? And that leaves me with a target full product cost. So before you begin manufacturing your product, we can't just manufacture, determine what it cost us and mark it up. We need to know on the front end, what will the market pay for this product if I am a price taker? What profit do I need in order to be able to manufacture this product and identify the target full product cost? So we have an example in this situation where we've got Smart Touch's budgeted income statement with their sales. We look at their variable costs, their fixed costs to come down to their operating income. And the text tells us that our stockholders would like to have a 10% return on our assets. Okay, so if this is the case, okay, what are we looking at? If we have 2.5 million in average assets, this is our return on investment that we looked at in the prior chapter. I want at least a 10% return on those assets. Then I need to generate I need to generate enough revenue to cover that return on assets. So my desired profit is $215,000 based on a 10% return on my 2.5 million investment in assets. So if we've analyzed the market and we've determined that we think the market is willing to pay $500 for these tablets, I think I can sell 2,400 of them, that would generate revenue of $1.2 million. If I know that I need a $250,000 profit to move into this market, sales less profit leaves me with my target product cost. So now I have to determine if I can manufacture these 24,000 tablets for less than $250,000. And so what are our options here? Let me go backwards. We need a desired profit of $250,000. Right now, our anticipated budget tells us that we would generate a $236,000 profit based on the estimates that we currently have for the number of tablets we think we can sell, their variable cost, and their fixed cost. So if we need $250,000 in profit to meet our 10% return on investment, but we're only generating $236,000, do we just abandon this project? Not necessarily. We have some alternatives. Your book says, first of all, can you simply accept the lower operating income of $236,000? That is a 9.44% return on investment. So would our investors be willing to take a 9.44% return versus a 10% return? That would be one option before we completely abandon our approach to this product. Is it possible? Our projected income is $14,000 lower than what it should be. So is it possible that we could reduce fixed or variable cost or some combination of the two by $14,000 or more? Let's go back to our engineers and our product design. Let's go back to our manufacturing cost and see if there's a way that we could reduce the cost or be any more efficient in how we're manufacturing this product. Okay, let's look at the other side of that. Could I possibly increase the sales volume? Okay, because if I have excess capacity and I could sell more of the products, is it possible, okay, that I could cover them? My fixed costs are already covered, so increasing production would only increase variable cost and then contribution margin. We could also look at, do we need to change or add to our product mix? Is there something that we could sell along with this product to make it more appealing to others in our organization? Could we differentiate it? So is there something that we could do to make our tablet a little more unique than the competition and actually begin to move toward a price setter in this market? Or, once again, any combination of the above strategies that would help us to increase revenues or decrease costs by $14,000. Okay, so just because we don't meet our required target doesn't mean we abandon our project. We go back and analyze our alternatives. Now let's take a look. That was target costing. Let's look at cost plus pricing. So in cost plus, instead of starting with what the market's willing to pay us, we start with what are our full product cost and what is the desired profit that I would like to make. I add the two of those together and I have a cost plus price. Okay, but we have to be careful. Not everyone can do this. You need to be a price setter to use the cost plus pricing. Maybe you have the Lamborghini or the newest Corvette on the market. Okay, are you unique enough that you can set the price for your product, the pharmaceutical company per se? So when we're using this situation, your book gives you an example of our current variable costs are $307.50 per tablet. We think we're going to manufacture 2,400. Add your fixed cost to come up with your total product cost. So we know that it's going to cost us $964,000 to manufacture. Let me get around my tablet here to manufacture these 2,400 tablets, but I also want to cover this 250,000 profit margin. So my target revenue for these tablets is 1,214,000. If I divide that by 2,400 units, then we're estimating that we need to sell our tablet for $506 per unit. We're currently estimating the market would pay $500, okay? But if we are a price setter, could we demand $506 or higher? So when we're trying to make these decisions, it really depends on what type of market you're in. A market where you're a price taker or a market where you're a price setter. And if it's a price setting market, then yes, we could potentially determine what our costs are, add our profit as markup. But if we are a price taker, we have to identify what the market is willing to pay us, target pricing, back off of that return, the return we want to generate, and identify a target product cost, and then go back and look at our estimates to see if we can actually manufacture the product within that product cost. Now, once we understand that these are the two basic ways we determine how to price our products, there is a third and unique way. What if someone comes along and offers us a one-time special order? Okay, I know that you typically sell your tablets for $500 a piece, but what if I buy 500 of these tablets, which is larger than any individual order that we manufacture for any of our customers? But because I want to purchase these 500 tablets for the new special school district that's coming into play, I'd like to purchase them for a reduced sales price. So how do we determine whether to take on this special order or not? Your book says, first of all, consider some things. Do we have excess capacity? This simply means, do I have the machine hours, the man hours to be able to generate this special order? Will the reduced sales price be high enough to cover the differential or the relevant cost for fulfilling this order? And will it impact my regular sales in the future if my current customers find out that I have sold my product to someone else for less than almost half the price that I'm selling it to them? Okay, so some things we have to take into consideration, but let's look at a situation. If currently I'm manufacturing these 2,400 tablets with revenue of $1.2 million, cost of goods sold of $698,000, and selling and general administrative expenses of $266. This is my traditional financial format of financial statements. And so if this were the case, I can't really identify those variable costs versus the fixed costs. The fixed cost probably will not change as a result of a special order, so I need to utilize my contribution margin format when I'm making a decision like this. Now I can identify the variable cost separate from my fixed cost, and I can also identify which of those variable costs pertain specifically to manufacturing. Okay, this is the part of our illustration and learning objective 1 where we are the accountants trying to gather the data that is relevant to this particular decision. So if this is the case, okay, in our particular decision that we're considering here, let's take a look at what would happen. If I originally take the $698,000 in cost of goods sold, so this is coming from the variable manufacturing cost and the fixed manufacturing cost. So if I take the $698,000, I divide that by 2,400 tablets, then basically, I know this is scribbling, but we're saying that it cost us $290.83 to manufacture these tablets. So if someone comes along and offers a special order, they want to purchase, let's say, your book says 250 tablets, but they want to purchase those 250 tablets at a price of $275. So an inexperienced manager, and perhaps even one of us, if we haven't studied this chapter, would say that's a no-brainer. If it cost me $290,000 to make this tablet, there's no way that I could possibly sell it to someone for $275. We would lose money. Okay, now this is where we take into consideration only the relevant cost. What are relevant costs? only those that would change as a result of this decision. So if I decide to take on the special order, the only cost that would increase would be my variable manufacturing cost. It's probably not likely. I'm probably not going to add another. If I have capacity, I'm not going to add another machine, another supervisor, any more insurance. So the only cost I really have are my variable materials, my variable labor, my variable overhead. So in this instance, if I take the variable cost of $588,000 and I divide that by the 2,400 tablets that we made for this cost, then we are saying that those tablets cost us, on average, $245 a tablet. So if I take on the special order, I'm going to incur materials, labor, and overhead to the tune of $245 a tablet for this special order. They've offered to pay me $275. So I would generate, if I were to take on the special order, $30 in additional contribution margin by accepting the special order, even though this is significantly less than what most customers would pay me for this particular tablet. Okay, so if I'm only looking at the quantitative factors, by all means accept the special order, because $30 times 250 tablets is an additional $7,500 in contribution margin, and this illustration's in your text if you would like to flip to the pages 1387 and follow along. Right, so quantitatively, we could accept this order. And what we see happening is I'm going to generate an additional $68,750 in revenue, 250 tablets at $275 each. I'm going to incur these variable manufacturing costs of material, overhead, and labor of $245 for 250 tablets. So it cost me $61,250. So my contribution margin and my operating income would increase by $7,500 because my fixed costs are already covered. It's not that fixed costs are not important, but they do not change as a result of taking on this one-time special order product. Okay, so how do we decide when to accept a special pricing order? If the expected increase in revenues exceeds the expected increase in variable and fixed cost, then I should accept the special pricing order. And in our situation, these costs did not change. I only had to cover an increase in variable cost. And so if the expected increase in revenues would not cover the increase in cost, obviously we would reject. And if we get here, let me caution you, we don't simply accept because we can generate increased contribution margin. We also need to stop and take into consideration what's going to be the other qualitative factors that would impact this particular decision. Next, we'll talk about Learning Objective 3 and how we make decisions about discontinuing products, a product mix, and a sales mix.